Introduce ourselves?
Yes, that would be a good idea.
Yes, it would. I'll start first. My name is Greg, and I am like this. We have two hosts pretty much. It's me and Ben.
Hello,
That's Ben.
I'm
And
Ben. Summoner name's Lieutenant Rafflecopter, blah, 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 blah. Yeah,
Nick.
My name is Pedro.
Pedro. Pedro. Not really quite sure why he's here. Should be outside.
Hey, I'll go back outside, mister.
Jesus Christ. Going to hell. Okay. So, just as some background information for this podcast thing, whatever we're doing, I'm currently trying out some of the new champions in the background while we do this. So when we get to the highlight for me, I'll be able to offer some actual insight as playing them firsthand. I'm only playing against computers, though, because I'm a little bitch.
Nice.
Yeah.
If you hear some audio issues, this is our first time, so yeah.
Yeah. Always the first time. Usually it hurts a little bit, but after a little while it starts to feel good, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm bleeding.
What? Okay, so we're going over League of Legends patch notes 5.15, or 5.15, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And we're just going to go over the champions, some of the changes, what we think about the changes, and some comps that you can go over with them. First of all, we're going to start off with everybody's favorite champion, Teemo.
No. We said we were going to start from the top, I thought.
The top would be Gangplank.
Gangplank, yes. So, just in case people are too lazy to actually hold the patch notes in front of them like we are, I'm actually going to exit out of this game just so I can focus. So, just as the quick synopsis kind of thing, too long didn't read, Gangplank is back. Q auto-acquires at a much smaller radius, Gangplank gets steady silver serpents on alternate maps. So the general for that, in quotation marks, during the fiery conclusion of Bilgewater, the Burning Tide, Gangplank sustained horrific injuries. Now he returns to League battlefields with renewed purpose. Learn more about Gangplank here, blah blah blah. So, all that they've really done is they've updated his parlay, which is where he fires as a pistol, in case you don't play this bloody game, in which case, why are you even listening to this podcast, unless it's for my sexy voice? Greatly reduce the radius where parlay automatically acquires a keg at 1 HP. Someone else should take over, just taking care of things in the background here.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were going to keep reading. That's why I was staying quiet.
The global investment now automatically acquires 1 silver serpent every second on Howling Abyss, Butcher's Bridge, Twisted Treeline, and Crystal Scar. That's basically all that did to Gangplank. There's not really much else that they have updated with him. Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, okay. In case you're confused about it, like the whole Gangplank is back thing, if you've been under a rock for a while, there was the Bilgewater event that was been going on, and during the Bilgewater event, for terms of drama or something, or with lore, Gangplank had died, and they reworked him visually, and he came back anew with a new visual update. Like, he's got like a bionic arm and stuff like that. It's weird.
Honestly, I'm just going to put in my thoughts. I don't really understand why they did that. It was kind of unnecessary where they, yeah, it's kind of cool, I guess, but they just left him out. And it's like, you just updated him, and now you're going back in, and you're going to change him again? I didn't really see any point.
Yeah, I wasn't too happy to see them doing that kind of thing where they just visually updated him, and on top of that, just added some new features to Gangplank. But then, just not too long later, they decided, or not decided, but disabled him in all the queues, and then he was unseen for a while, and then finally he came back as this Gangplank. Well, I will say he still looks kind of cool. It would have been nice to at least stay with the current Gangplank for a while.
Yeah, it wasn't really necessary. Do you have any thoughts about the new Gangplank and why they changed.
Yeah, everything that I had an issue with was already stated. Why would they just release a visual update, only to give us pre-Gangplank, and then never let us use it again, is my big issue. So that's my thing. But moving on to Fiora would be nice, because I have her update here in front of me.
You want to read it?
So I will go through it. So skipping all the random crap about about all of her details and such, she got a complete overhaul and a new look to her. I don't know if her other skins were also updated, but her base skin is definitely a new one. Her new passive marks an area around a champion where it is their vital spot. And if Fiora hits that, then she... What is it? Nope. Extra true damage for that attack while gaining a small heal and a short burst of speed. Here's my big issue with that passive, and this was my second biggest issue with this kit. There were some things that worked out well, some things not so great. This is one of the ones that I thought was not great. So she's getting a small heal, which makes sense because she's supposed to be the duelist champion, and right now the duelist champion I would say in top lane would be either Shen or Aatrox, I would say. Would be two pretty good contenders.
Yeah.
Just because
you
both
gotta
could
give
just
it to
constantly heal in a fight.
Yeah, you definitely got to give it to something that can not only be tanky, but also like heal and just last these fights. And both Shen and Aatrox show that greatly.
Especially-
Yeah, like I can name a few times where I've 1v1 to Tryndamere as Shen in the early game. It's kind of hilarious.
Yeah,
But my big issue with the ability, getting back to that, can Fiora see... So Fiora can obviously see where these vital spots are. They develop over time, they make a large noise. But can the person that Fiora is looking at see where that vital spot is? Because if not, then that could cause some issues. Like, that seems kind of weird. Like, why is this Fiora suddenly circling around to my right? There should be some way that the person who is marked by that vital thing can be able to see where it is, just so they can try and take preventative measures. And, you know, that shit will eat through your ADC no problem if she's getting true damage on top of all those autos, so long as she hits you from one of 4 angles.
So go ahead, Greg. You had something you wanted to say there?
Yeah, sorry.
Can they really not see it? I didn't know that.
I don't know. It doesn't say. It just showed Fiora, so I don't even know if the person afflicted can see it or whatever else happens.
I'm pretty sure the person afflicted could see it just to counter it. But I think it's actually going to be a really good change because she used to be able to just destroy you in trades, and she used to be just very, very strong. And I think they did a pretty good job at making her more skill-based instead of just like press E and kill instantly, pretty much.
Very much, yeah.
And I think they did a very good job at trying to balance her out. And I think that, yeah, they did change her skins to make them look different as well. So,
Okay.
Nick, what do you think about it?
I have 3 things I want to talk about.
Go ahead.
The first one being, with back to the passive again, I see that it's like different angles on it. However, I'm not sure if it was actually stated or not exactly what the angles mean. Like, is it always just like a north, east, south, west, or is it the front of them, the back of them, the left of them, or the right of them? Because if it's the front, back, left, right, then that would mean that if they turn around and their like vital point just happens to be in front of them, Fiora will hit their back, and it won't give her the true damage just because they turned around or turned to the left for some odd reason. So that can be kind of weird.
Mm-hmm.
And the second thing I have is with riposte, it makes it seem like Fiora wouldn't be as good of a, not really a duelist, but as more of like a team fighter. Because riposte not only just blocks damage, but it blocks all damage and hard crowd control coming from everywhere for a short amount of time. So with good timing, a Fiora could literally block out the entire team fight if she can get the timing and positioning right, and then just go in and hit any vital points that she sees. With the amount of attack speed and movement speed that she can get, it's very easy to do that.
Yeah,
And then finally moving on to Grand Challenge, again in team fights, unless you get the perfect scenario where you can somehow, like, full knowledge of their vitals by hit, like, or that meaning you've hit all their vitals, that's when she can, like, sorry, I'm reading it at the same time here, trying to get a better understanding of it.
Yeah, here's the big issue with Fiora right now. From what I understand, she's been disabled on PvE for like the past week or so, and they just released her today on the newest servers, but she's still disabled. So a lot of people are very not happy about that. So all these questions that we have about this champion, we really can't answer because we can't play her. And we can't actually look and see like, oh, well, does this weak point move with them? Because I can't tell because I can't use the champion.
That's why we have so many questions. But yeah, my question and kind of, I'd say, problem about Grand Challenge is, despite it seeming like it's supposed to be like you need these perfect conditions and all that to use it, it can actually be used in a clutch scenario. So say, for example, because her passive does this true damage, and chances are you'll build a lot of penetration damage and high AD on Fiora anyways, she can choose any target she wants for her Grand Challenge, and that's where the biggest problem comes from. As soon as she sees a low health target on the enemy team, she can use Grand Challenge on them. She doesn't even have to hit all weak points, as long as she kills them. Grand Challenge will activate, and her whole team can start healing. And then the whole team fight can just turn around just from her pressing one button. So that's why I can see it being very clutch and very problematic, and I feel like it'll probably be touched up. Whether that means taking off the heal or just changing her ults and how it works.
Yeah, that was one of my biggest issues when I saw the first release, was that massive team heal.
Personally, I don't think they'll change it right away. It might take a while and might take a lot of complaining to get them to change it. But it just depends how bad the ratios are with the healing. Because I think personally that it's kind of good at the moment, and it actually gives her a chance to be good in team fights and not just, even though she is a grand duelist, she can still have that team fight potential, which every champion I think should have at least a little bit, just because it's a team game and it'll make it more fun for everybody. But
yeah,
what lanes do you think she'll be played more often than, Nick? Because I know you had some ideas about it.
Yeah, okay, so I have a lot of things to say about that one. Is, again, going back to how the passive will work, like will it be front back or will it be like a universal left, a universal right, like the top of the champion is always pointing towards top lane kind of thing, and that's always going to be where the vital point is, or if it's going to be relative to which direction their model is facing. Because if I'm going to say, if it's relative to which model the direction is facing, or which direction the model is facing, then I don't see her being viable at all to be played mid lane, because with such a short range, it's hard to move around and maneuver and trying to get to those vital points. However, with the long lane that is top lane, or bot lane if you're in a lane scenario, she has a lot more room to move around and kind of maneuver to try and get to those weak points. And then moving on to the third place that I might think of here seeing, and probably the most viable in my opinion, is the jungle. Because her insane amount of damage and her gank potential from lunge can cause a lot of damage. I'm not sure how quickly her passive will respond in terms of going into a lane. So I'm not sure if you'll be able to walk into like mid lane or something for a gank and a vital point will already be there by the time you're getting ready to lunge, or if it'll still be processing. But either way, I feel like jungle would be very good because of her fast clear and her pretty good sustain.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I just looked at the video for lunge there. I feel like we should talk about that. We already know about riposte, which is like parry still, but it's a little different. It also does the CC thing. We already brushed over that. And then blade work. Ooh, we're going to have to talk about that too. So blade work is a little different. Lunge, didn't lunge used to apply a slow? I never really played Fiora.
Do you want to take this, or?
I'm not actually completely sure. I did play her for a while, but I don't remember off the top of my head.
Okay, I never played her. I played her like once or twice, so.
Okay, well, how Lunge worked before, like, or I should say currently,
Lunge
since
used to
we
be
have
a point
yet
flick.
to use.
Lunge used to be a targeted ability where you would just click on somebody and you lunged at them, right?
Correct.
Now, it's an area of effect. So you lunge to a targeted area, and it will prioritize hitting vital points on champions if it can. If not, it'll just hit the nearest champion, and if there's no champion, it'll just hit a minion. So looking at the hitbox on that, she has quite a bit to work with there. Like, she really gets a
Yeah.
lot of range.
I was looking at that as well, and I was also talking, like how you said, it prioritizes weak points as well. My biggest thought about that is, say the enemy team is running away, and their vital point is on the opposite side. So, like, you can't hit them from the back, you'd have to go all the way around them to hit them. That being said, if you lunge to them, if it brought you to the weak point, would it bring you an extra amount of distance to bring you in front of them to hit the weak point? And if so, then her gap closer is a lot of extra distance there, like a whole model,
Just to get
character
some
model.
clarification. You mean like Talon's little thing where you can dive to the other person and it pops up behind
Yeah,
you?
like his cutthroat.
Yeah, okay, I understand. I see what you're talking about. Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I was just going back to the lunge and how it would work previously. Yeah, it was like point and click, Q once, and then you could Q again in a short amount of time to dash a second time. However, this time there's no second dash, but you can't be targeted as well. So it's just, like you said, point to an area, go to that area, and it'll choose a target. But my biggest problem with this new lunge is, again, like he said before, the leeway on it and the fact that it can apply on-hit effects just like that and hit these vital points, dealing ridiculous amounts of damage. And that brings me back to this Fiora jungle. The ganking pressure from that, like just going in, if you can get like a sneak, like not going by the bushes, but going in behind and just walking down the lane towards them, if you have a red buff on you with lunge, unless they flash and somehow like dodge your flash as well, it's almost a guaranteed kill because of the true damage on top of the true damage from red buff.
Should also mention it's true damage based on percentage of max health, so you're guaranteed quite a bit. Next I want to touch up on blade work there. So Fiora gains increased attack speed on her next two basic attacks. That's nothing new. I remember that blade work would just increase her auto attack speed for a little while, right?
Yeah, by a ludicrous amount, might I add. I think it was like level 170 or something like that.
They've given us no numbers on this, so... the first cannot crit, but slows her target, while the second is guaranteed to crit. I don't know what Riot's doing, playing around with critical chance these days. I mean, first was Ashe rework, now it's this.
Yeah.
But, I mean... Okay, so the first cannot crit, but it slows. So then you're basically guaranteed a second auto attack that's guaranteed a critical strike. Looking at everything in this kit right now, I'm going to see a lot of Fiora's building Spellblade, I guarantee it, because of on-hit effects, right? If you're taking the top lane, you're going to want to win. And then you're also going to be grabbing like a lot of heavy damage items. I was at first thinking because of Grandmaster or Grand Challenge that we might see some tankier Fioras, that way they can take the damage while they deal out that to get that massive heal. But no way, we're going to see the same Fioras, just this time with a Spellblade, and this time, instead of disappearing for a few seconds and dealing a shitload of damage to anybody nearby, their team members, which I will admit is more annoying than this ultimate, we're just going to get flat damage Fioras erasing people in no time, if anything faster.
Right. Should we move on?
So...
Or... continue?
I still want to talk about Fiora and actually, like, with this new Fiora, because it is a whole champion that's being changed right now, so there's a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
So back to, like, what you said, like, Spellblade on this new Fiora, I can very well see it, especially since she is guaranteed that second auto attack, and pretty much anytime you see an ability that is not only a gap closer, but also applies on-hit effects, cough cough Aurelia, a Spellblade can do quite a lot of damage.
Cough cough Echo.
Yeah. with her blade work and her lunge combined, it's pretty much near impossible to make it so she can't get this insane amount of damage. If she can initially close the gap so she's in auto attack range, unless you're something like a Sivir, and I'm not sure if you can actually spell shield the first attack. I'm sure you can spell shield the slow, but I'm not sure about the damage, since it is still considered an auto attack. However, with the blade work, like you said, with the slow, if she has enough attack speed, she's guaranteed the second auto attack, which she already gains more attack speed from blade work. So it's a slow and then a critical hit immediately after.
Not counting if
that's
she hits a
when-
vital point and moves faster.
Mm-hmm. So what I'm seeing from this is that Fiora doesn't have to build additional crit chance. If blade work is on a low cooldown, I'm not sure what the cooldown on it is. I can't see it anywhere.
We get nothing.
Yeah, we don't really have anything to go off of because she's disabled still. But if blade work's on a low enough cooldown, the only crit she'll have to build to do insane amounts of damage is an Infinity Edge. With that, blade work, with say a Trinity Force, which I can see becoming a very good item on her in top lane now, that's about, without the Trinity and Infinity Edge, the damage is, we'll say, 100%. With the Trinity Force and the Infinity Edge, it's maybe around 500 some. That's like 5 times as much damage from 2 auto attacks.
I found some numbers here, actually.
Oh, you did?
So, yeah, I've got some numbers now. Fiora lunges in a direction and slashes a nearby enemy, dealing 65, which will scale up to 105 at maximum level, plus 60% of attack damage as physical damage applying on-hit effects. And if the ability does hit an enemy, 60% of its cooldown is refunded. And its cooldown I do not actually have. Riposte is going to be magic damage, which goes 90 to 250. There's no ratio there, unfortunately. It slows their movement and attack speed by 50% per 1.5 seconds.
I don't know what they're doing.
And if it's an immobilize or disable instead of a slow, she stuns instead.
Yeah, I'm not too sure where they're trying to go with this, but it does seem very ridiculous with Riposte. And the thing I want to capitalize on the most is Riposte doing magic damage.
Does it really?
I'm not quite sure why it does magic damage, even now or in this new Fiora. Because last time I checked, Fiora doesn't have magical properties. She's a duelist that uses a sword. And quite well, to say the least. So why is her Riposte doing magic damage? I don't know. And better question, how is she able to redirect stuns and snares? And if so, like,
It's
if you
a
think of
very
it,
small window.
yeah, but if you think about it, with the amount of hard CC that's in the current meta right now, like you see all these Nautilus and like Morgana and all these different picks that have a lot of hard CC, mostly coming from the bot lane. If she's able to block that, that completely shuts down some of those like hard CC. Like I've already seen like a thing. She can snare Morgana with her own Q duration, I think.
No, it doesn't send it back. It just sends back a stun of her own.
Oh, okay. But it's still like, what did you say, 1.5 seconds?
Yeah, 1.5.
That's a little high. Like in 1.5 seconds, that's enough time for her to lunge and get both hits on blade work out.
That's probably enough time for her to get her ultimate out.
Yeah. Her ultimate just automatically activates right away as soon as she clicks it. It's like point click, it's on. So there's no question about how long it'll take to do that.
Sorry, I think we should move on just so we get this done tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We spent a lot of time on Fiora. I think we spent like a
So-
good, 10, 20 minutes.
You want to just go over Echo's skills real quick?
Yeah, so I'm just going to give a quick rundown on this.
Yeah.
So they just lowered all of his AP ratios. His passive now slows less, but it gives him more speed. And in the general quotation that Riot gave, they just said that they were kind of afraid of Tank Echo which was a big deal for a little while. I do remember seeing a few of those running around. They were a pain to fight against, but they are just trying to encourage a skirmish hit and run style Echo. So let's go over his abilities. Greg, I'll let you take over.
I'm sorry, I'm not even on Echo right now. I'm looking at all the other champions. Can you go over it?
Yeah, I got it. So his passive, Z-Drive Resonance, Jesus Christ, the ratio has gone up to a 0.8 ability power. The slow has gone from a 40 to 80% to a 30 to 60%. So we're seeing a 10 to 20% slow across the board there. Yeah, everything looks to be 10% lower except for the final level. And then his movement speed has gone from 40 scaling up to 80 between 5 levels, from 40 scaling up to 80 between 4 levels. So he gets to that higher point at level 16 as opposed to level 18 now. Parallel Convergence is W. Yeah, no worries. The shield has actually been reduced. That is a big deal for me. I had a huge issue with that. So 150 to 330 has turned to 80 to 160. However, the shield's ratio has gone up from 0.8 to 1.5. And the final one is his ultimate, Chrono Break, which now goes from scaling 20 to 30% of his damage taken over the last 4 seconds, has gone to 20% of the damage taken over the last 4 seconds will be healed back. And then his heal ratio has gone from 1% for every 30 ability power to 1% for every 15 ability power. Wow.
So basically,
that is...
he's more evened out now. Personally, I'm just going to hurry up and throw a quick thing out here for him. The way I thought he was honestly a little bit... It was a little bit stronger than it needed to be, but I thought it was most of all fine. Like, I had no problem with versing it, playing as it. It wasn't really that bad. He could be countered, and yeah.
Nick, what do you think?
Well, going back onto Z-Drive Resonance, there's only my biggest worry here is that increase of ability power on Z-Drive Resonance, because in the early game, the 1-2-3 hit, and yes, it can be countered easily if you can like dodge his Time Winders and stuff. His Z-Drive Resonance can do a lot more damage now. But then at the same time, the movement speed's slow from Z-Drive Resonance, and the movement speed increase that he gets is a little bit like changed a little bit. The movement speed increase doesn't scale as smoothly, so he can't get faster at later levels. But at the level 18, level 16, he will have the same movement speed he would have at level 18 from it. And the slow is just overall taken down. Parallel Convergence, I can see, like, it was exactly what they're going for with, like, getting rid of Tank Echo, because the biggest problem with Tank Echo was that huge AoE stun that would not only stun a lot of enemies, but also give him a shield to protect him from damage from the enemies he didn't stun. And that's where the tank part was coming from, because it had such a high flat value, reaching, like, a max of 330. He didn't need any ability power to block out a lot of damage. But now bringing it down from 80 to 160, with 1.5 ability power, the more ability power, the bigger the shields.
Right.
And then Chrono Break, the decrease of damage taken that he heals back, but also to give back some more, again, focusing on how much AP you're building. It's effectively doubled how much you healed with building AP.
Yeah.
It has doubled. So...
Italy?
My issue with this is I played like a few games as Echo, not too many. I did it about 2 changes after his release. So like they touched him up twice and then I started playing him a little bit. Didn't really do much with him. Echo is kind of like Zed in a weird sense where if you don't get kills and you don't dominate the mid lane, or if you don't roam and get kills, you're going to have a huge issue in the later game. Even if you get kills after that laning phase, it's going to get harder. And you really need those kills early game to clean up. So with this change, they've gone from giving them like flat values to the later the game goes, the more of a threat you're going to become, regardless of what these ratios are. And I like that because they're making him focus on going mid lane and building raw ability power and becoming that AP assassin that needs to be feared. And yeah, I really feel like that's going to be a good thing to do.
Mm-hmm. Should we move on to Nidalee?
Yes.
All right. Well,
I know nothing about Nidalee, so
I
I'm
can
not
go
the guy
over
to
it.
talk to about this one.
So her Q, there's some small changes, actually kind of big changes, but her Q cast time has went up, damage has went down, and her W's vision is greatly reduced. So the way she was is basically poking people off with her spears, right? So
Yeah.
now they're trying to make her commit with her engages as Cougar form. And she like needs to go in and commit to an engage just to kill them. That's what they're trying to force her to do. So she's not just throwing spears in the back lines, getting kills. Her javelin toss cast time was 0.125 and it's now 0.25 seconds. Her spear damage is 50 or was 50 to 150. Now it's 50 to 130. Maximum spear damage 150 to 450, 150 to 390. And her bushwhack was 1,200 for 0.5 seconds to 400 for 0.5 seconds. Any thoughts?
What I have to say right off the bat is jungle Nidalee mains, don't be feared. The flat damage is still there on her javelin toss.
Yeah.
Well, it's, again, like her damage, I'm not too worried about the cast time there. In fact, I feel like maybe it could be a little bit higher because my biggest problem when it comes to, like you said, you have to commit to these Cougar form takedowns.
Mm-hmm.
With a high enough gold lead, javelin toss, you can easily just like chain your combos together on Nidalee. Like throw your spear, hit it, dive in, do your burst, move back a little bit, go back out of Cougar form, human form, throw a javelin toss, and jump back in again. You can just keep constantly go in and out because of the pounce reset. And it makes it really easy to just walk all over your enemy team if you have a good enough lead. However, with the increased cast time, I can see that they're trying to like maybe slow her pace down, so there's a little bit more time to react and dodge spears, even if they are point blank. If they wanted to do that, I feel like they should have maybe brought that up a little bit more instead of 0.25 seconds, because it's still not too much time to react.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, with the lower, like much lower damage when it comes to late game, the maximum spear damage gone down by 60. That's good.
Yeah.
And overall, I think this should make it so Nidalee can't poke as much.
See, I feel the same, but I really don't like what they did to Bushwhack because now, I mean, it didn't really get much vision off the start. It did, but now it's even less. And now basically you have to be smart where you place your Bushwhack because, like, say if it's in a bigger bush, like maybe one of bottom bushes, one of those.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're going to have to be smart where you place it to get that little bit of vision because people can just be sitting in there waiting and you'd put it on one side and you won't even see them. So.
Yeah, with only 400 units to work with from your Bushwhack, that's like, down in bot lane, that's maybe a third of the bush. But again, there's only for 1.5 seconds. You can't expect it to be too much of a problem, as wards are a lot more reliable. But with that decrease of like area of vision, it kind of makes it so, sadly, it does affect the jungle Nidalee if she wants to invade with her Bushwhack, because normally you could like put your Bushwhack all over it, check the bushes, see where they might have been, or check the camps, see which camps they've done. However, with Bushwhack, you can still check the camps, but with checking bushes and trying to find the opponent jungler, it's a little bit harder because you have to be really smart where you place them now, which I do like this.
I don't really like it too much. I think they should hire it a little bit, maybe to at least like 600, because I feel that it's just way too low for now.
I'd like to offer my suggestion of saying maybe about 500, because, I mean, with 400, that's less than Lucian's auto attack range, and he's got one of the shortest right now, I think, right?
Yeah, him and Graves, I think.
Yeah, they have really, really short attack range just because they're meant to be hit-and-run champions. If you only have 400 range and you drop that into Motion, they're just sitting there on the edge of that range. You're going to get fucked up when you walk into that bush, man. It ain't going to be pretty. But,
yeah. And that's just talking about the shorter range.
Yeah. What I do like, however, is the Javelin Toss cast time nerf. I don't really the spear damage is nice and all, but if she builds AP, it's still going to do damage. You got to be careful of those. The cast time, however, I love that so much, being a Ezreal player, and also being somebody that needs to dodge shots constantly in the current poke meta. It's wonderful to hear that I'll have just that split second more to see that she's winding up that spear and it's coming flying straight through me. So it's really nice for me.
I honestly didn't really find much of that, or not that much of a problem, because I guess whereas I played support for a long time, I kind of just got used to dodging spears and hooks and stuff. So I never really found it that much of a problem, as long as you just paid attention and you could just sidestep it. But it's a lot better. So
let's move along to Sivir. Yeah, Sivir. Her R got nerfed. That's the whole thing. It's just not as reliable of an engage now. It's still good. It's still great, in fact, but it's just not as good.
Okay.
So it started off with some initial movement speed upon cast, where we go at 60% at all ranks, and the only thing you would get from leveling it is more attack speed boost on your W. But now, whenever you cast it, anybody in the area gets the same movement speed as Sivir, and if people joined in, like if they walked into the area that was on the hunt, then they would start off at the initial speed boost, but decay really, really fast. So now it's, if you join in after she casts it, you get the bonus that Sivir is at the time that you join, and then you're still decaying with her. I think that's cool because now it's not like, oh, Sivir ulted from the back lines and then everyone's moving up as well. Now it's like Sivir's ulted and everyone else has to keep up with her at that point. So it kind of changes up how you can use her engage.
Right.
Sivir herself, though, is still a very strong ADC and I still enjoy her.
Teemo. I have not really played much about him. This is all you've been. You got this.
So I just played a game as Teemo, tried him out. Wanted to see how his new small mechanics kind of worked. So they said that they changed up his passive. Yes, they did. However, his passive does not really come in play until the later the game goes. What's kind of weird is that they made it so that if he moves in a bush, you do not break stealth. That's kind of cool, but it means that we're probably going to see more Teemo's top lane just because the bushes are longer there. If you play in mid lane like I usually do, you're not really going to get to use that until the later game where you can actually hide in bushes, because if you hide in the bushes on mid lane, you're seriously not doing anything.
Before we move on, can I say something?
Yeah, sure.
Well, honestly, I think he's going to be played a lot more support. He's going to be such a strong support with that, because he can just be sitting in the bush. Say, like, if the enemy team backs off, he can just sit in that bush, wait, and the enemy team will come in, and he can just wait for the support, like, say if it's, like, maybe a Sona support or something. He can wait for her to get in the bush. She's very squishy, and he can just blast her. That sounds very bad, but he can destroy her really easily because of this, and she won't even know. I mean, I guess it would kind of make the enemy team have to buy pink wards and, like, kind of put pressure on Teemo, but I think it's so overpowered. Yeah, it's cool, but I don't think it's going to be fun at all.
Yeah, this is going to be weird with that new passive. Also, the biggest thing that happened with his passive is the attack speed bonus. I rarely use this as Teemo. I don't even use his passive usually because I build him raw AP and I erase my opponents before they have a chance to do anything. But regardless, now I'm going to have to start using it because you start off with a 20% bonus whenever you break your camouflage and you start auto-attacking. Now you get an 80% bonus attack speed at level 15. So if you're playing Teemo, odds are that game's going to go for a long time because your enemies are going to have to be careful around your mushrooms, which also have had changes done to them, which we will go over. But with an 80% attack speed boost, it means that you can just break camouflage inside of a minefield and decimate anybody that you choose to blind because they have no time to react. Because by the time that blindness wears off, you've already unloaded like close to double the amount of auto attacks that you should be putting out. That's going to be crazy.
Mm-hmm.
I played around with his ultimate. this was the biggest thing I wanted to see inside of this game because I wasn't 100% sure. So his mushrooms have had massive changes done to them. The old Teemo would have just planted the mushroom and walked away. That's all you could do. You planted a mushroom, and then you left it, and you hoped to God somebody would step on it, because then you got to laugh. But the duration of them has gone from 10 minutes down to 5 minutes, and I know that every time that I play him, and Nick here starts saying, oh God, well, why does this champion even fucking exist? Which I don't blame him. One of his biggest issues was how long mushrooms lasted, because top laners could just burrow themselves behind these mushrooms and make it impossible for ganks to happen post level 6. And if you're playing a mid lane, then you really had to be careful because that was just raw AP waiting to be stepped on, and you had no idea where they were or where they would end up. The big thing that I liked is his slow now decays over 4 seconds. So if you're trying to run through the jungle or something and you step on a mushroom and suddenly Teemo's there, you want to be able to get away. So with that increased attack speed, you also have an easier chance of getting away because you're not slowed for a solid 4 seconds. Instead, you're slowed, but it's decaying, so you have a chance to get away. His cast range has gone from 200 to 300, scaling up to 900, increasing by 300 each rank. Increasing this also, I think, increases, something else. We'll get to that in a moment, which is kind of fun to use. But it's kind of weird how it scales. They updated the animation, so he actually throws the mushroom instead of planting the mushroom, which is kind of cool. And it also takes it a little bit longer to plant, is what they said. However, all that they mean by that is that the animation takes slightly longer and the mushrooms still arm in the same amount of time. So it's basically just how long it takes for the mushroom to arrive at your targeted location, and then it arms in the same amount of time. The only reason it takes any longer is because the mushroom is flying through the air and is not yet active. Its arm time is now 1.5 seconds, but really, that's kind of weird. They also said that you stealth twice as fast, but it takes the game a little while to realize that you're holding still, so really that makes no difference. It feels the exact same, honestly. Then whenever you hit the maximum level on this ultimate and you get to a 900 cast range, you're hurling these things further than ADCs can shoot. So that's an accomplishment on its own, being a little soldier that he is. The new mechanic that they added that I thought was really cool, really fun to play with, but has no practical value whatsoever, is bouncing mushrooms. If you hit a mushroom with another mushroom, it bounces off of the previous mushroom and lands, I quote, 3 to 5 Teemos further in the direction they were originally tossed. I think this is kind of a joke to the time that they updated New Summoner's Rift and people were using Teemos for scale. So...
Can I add something?
Yeah, go on.
I don't really like what they did to this. Like, where you can just bounce it across another mushroom. Because you could say if you're in mid lane, you could be like... you could have them set up where you could just bounce them straight into the bush, not even having to move. Like, I just don't really like that. It's a little bit too strong.
I tried playing around with this, actually. With your 300 cast range, you can plant one on the edge, and then you can bounce one into the next bush. But its sight granting is so low, you only cover about half the bush like that. So until you get your second level in your ultimate is whenever using your mushroom bounce really gets interesting, because then you can toss some 600 range, which means that you really get to have some fun with warding with those. And then you also got to try and predict the bounce, which you can mess up very easily.
Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. And the bounce is only 4 Teemos at that point is what they say, but if you have 600 range, you're going to get that out close to 900 at that point. So that's pretty fun. Mushrooms now die from 3 basic attacks to range champs and 2 from melee. I like that better, because mushrooms used to have a set amount of health, and I think it might have scaled with your ultimate level or with your champion level, but it took a few auto attacks usually, depending on how much damage you were dealing. But now that it has a set amount of damage that you need to do, it's kind of like clearing a ward, and I think that's better.
Right. So, Nick, do you have any thoughts?
A couple, yeah. Going over to camouflage there, yeah, like the whole attack speed thing, that seems a little robust when it gets to late game, especially if it's like this full AP Teemo. If you step on one shroom and he happens to be on that bush as well, it's like you're pretty much dead with that 80% increase. Stealth timer, it's not a big change. I don't really care about that. With setup, he does stealth twice as fast. I'm not. There's no actual numbers going with that, so I'm assuming it means 0.75 seconds. And this is the useless mechanic that I'm seeing right now, is moving inside brush while camouflage no longer breaks stealth. Because the only bush in the actual Summoner's Rift that's higher than his auto attack range is the bot lane bush, and that's only by like this tiny little sliver. So what's the point in being able to move around when you can already see the entire bush and every other bush? And on top of that, the only real thing you can do is just dodge skills, which if they're throwing skills in there, they already know you're in there anyways. So it just seems like a really useless mechanic that they've added onto Teemo, which honestly the only value I can see to it is just being a nuisance. So Riot, middle finger. But Noxious Trap, the cast range seems kind of ridiculous, especially when it's 900, and you said it already, it's like, that's a lot higher than most AD carries.
It doesn't even scale lightly. It triples in range after, like, what is it? When you get your third point in ultimate, it's like level 16?
Level 16, yeah.
Yeah, so you hit level 16 and suddenly you can throw those further than an ADC. That's pretty goddamn ridiculous. And you get 300 range each rank. That does not scale lightly. Like, I was playing it. Once I hit level 2, I was like, what the hell am I going to do with all this range? I just started throwing it behind the computers, and I was like, okay, have fun with that when you try and run from me.
Mm-hmm.
I have a question. Oh, go ahead. Sorry. Michael.
I was just saying, like, with the 900 and this very vague measurement known as TMOS, I've only got, like, kind of a good idea in my head. With 900, and since it also scales up, like, it's not just scaling by 300. That's the thing. If it has, with that bounce mechanic, if you use that bounce mechanic, it's not just 300. It's, I'd say, around 300 or to like 350 to 400 range every time you put a point in it. So really, when it's at 900 with bounce, I think it's around 1050, I'd say, range, which is very, very high.
Hold on, I'm gonna Google this. How wide is a Teemo?
Okay.
So,
oh god, I thought you were finished.
So like potential things I can see that actually are useful with this mechanic is going back to my most hated elements of Teemo. His mushrooms can act as wards. And not just that, but stronger wards than actual wards. So with level 3, you can literally stand in either side of red buff, throw your ult once, get it right up against the wall towards Baron or Dragon, and then bounce it again, and you have a ward in there. All the way from red buff, you've warded Dragon or Baron. So it just seems kind of ridiculous, that high amount of range.
Right.
After Googling it, I've determined that one Teemo is equal to approximately 100 units of range, meaning that off of one bounce at maximum level, you can reach 1,400 range with a second shroom.
Well, I stand corrected. My numbers were even lower, meaning you could literally probably get it on top of Dragon.
That is so strong.
With the bounce. Yeah, that's going to be very annoying. I'm thankful, at least, that the timer went from 10 to 5 minutes, but I still think 5 minutes is a little too high since most wards, or sorry, not most, but all wards are 3 minutes. That's 2 extra minutes, and since it now has this set amount of attacks that needs to be done, which, by the way, indirect nerf to Nasus there, since he can't just right away stack them off, which 2 basic attacks he could just auto attack reset to do, but it takes more time. It's literally like saying this is pretty much a warding tool for Teemo, and yeah, mid lane Teemo kind of dead with this, all this changes. Top lane Teemo, very, very much alive.
Yeah.
So are we going to move on to the next item, or did you have something to say there, Greg?
I had something to add. So you played a game with him, right?
I did try it out, yes.
Did you actually try tossing a shroom at the bot? If the shroom hits them in collision with the bot champion, do do damage, or does it just land
No.
behind them or behind them?
It lands where they're standing, and then it takes its time to arm, just like old mushrooms would have. If you
Okay.
planted them right next to you, it would have had to arm before it went off. So you had time to get away.
Okay, that's fair, I guess. So
However, the bots were too stupid, and they just stood there.
let's move on to the items.
Zeke's
Zeke's Harbinger.
I love how we all said it. Good job,
I've
dude.
never used this item. I didn't even know this existed.
I love this item, first of all. Like, this is my favorite item as support. It is so good, especially with Ashe. It is great. It is fantastic.
Apparently, it's been suggested for AP Jungle Xin Zhao.
I've never tried it on that. But me as support and Ashe as my ADC, we destroyed. Okay. Anybody want to talk about it, or should I?
I've got no idea what's going on with this
Right.
item.
I'm going to go... Oh, go ahead.
Nice. I can go ahead and talk about it really quickly.
Sure.
The general synopsis that it says here is Zeke's buff lasts longer but takes longer to build, which the thing about that is it already took a very long time to build, and since you can't just activate it when you want to activate it, I really can't see this item becoming very good unless it's like you're already so far in the lead. Why not make it so that we have a bigger lead, but then again, we don't choose when Zeke's Harbinger activates, so we don't choose when this item is going to be efficient. It's just efficient if we're lucky enough that the fight starts up while Zeke's Harbinger is active or close to being activated. The buff duration, an increase to 2 seconds, doesn't really change it. And honestly, buying the item, I felt it was really lackluster. The only kind of supports I'd see it be working on are like Janna, because with Janna, you can kind of choose when the actual fight starts.
Mm-hmm.
And since you can already give your AD carry a bonus of AD, it works pretty well with that. And then again, as well, it also depends on what AD carry they're playing. Like, if it's something that scales really good on attack speed, such as Ashe, then yeah, Zeke's Harbinger will be good. But if it's like a Kalista or something like that, who is more about keeping mobility and applying these Ren stacks, Zeke's Harbinger, since it's all just the base attack speed added on, and it needs to be like activated when it happens, I don't see it too good on those kind of AD carries.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't see this helping it at all unless they make it so that you choose when it activates. Like, say, if the charges stack up, then it has a charge on it, and you can activate the item to make the charge go off. That's what I wanted to see from Zeke's Harbinger, not an increased duration and all this, but you can go ahead and say what you want to say on it.
I'm gonna go ahead and go first. See, this is what I kind of did, but kind of bypass that little flaw in it. Is that, like, before I would go into a fight, I would kind of activate it just to make sure it wasn't activated in the fight, and then by the time we got in the fight and started using all of our skills, it would be activated, and nearing the end of the fight, it was just activated and you could demolish with it. That's the only reason I liked it, is just if you plan your engages, which is kind of hard to do with it, you can get a really good team fight and very, very strong team fight. And like you said with Janna, yes, it's really good with her because basically she starts the team fight, or she can do really good engages and stuff, and she can control where the team fight will be, and yeah, it's probably really good on her. I never tried it on her yet. Anybody else?
Got nothing on this
Already
item.
said.
Didn't even know it existed.
Right. There's... I'm just going to go over some of the basic stuff. There's global font changes. It basically made thicker font so you can read it a little bit better. And
I like it.
I don't know. I kind of like it, I guess. It's not really that good. Buffed stats, once again, use colored text. Stat icons are larger. Critical strike, I can't speak. Critical strike chance and attack range have swapped positions. Crit chance is now in the default view, while attack range is in the expanded view. Up the brightness of the XP bar. This is not kind of nonsense. There's not really much to go with this, but the ability
They made
bar,
it look a little bit better, and
Yeah.
honestly, I enjoy it. I know a lot of people have been complaining about the new HUD, but these changes make it, like, look better and a little bit easier on the eyes. I don't really care much about the change from new to old. It's their choice. If they're going to change the HUD, I'm going to live with it. But no, I actually enjoy the changes that they made because it makes it a little bit more pleasing to look at.
Mm-hmm. There's not really too much we can do. They changed Champion Select area.
They did.
Yeah, where you can change your ward skins, and it did the in-champ select. So that's a thing. There's a new skin coming out, Cottontail Fizz. There's some...
that is what nightmares are made out of.
There's Chroma Pack for Cassiopeia Curse, Dragon Slayer Vayne Chaos, Koi Nami Element.
Yeah. Well, just giving you guys a first look at some of these. Not really a fan of the Cassiopeia one, personally. I haven't even bought a Chroma Pack. I was considering getting the Zac one, but I absolutely blow a Zac, so I wouldn't get it. The Dragon Slayer one looks okay, I suppose. I mean, it's not great, but I mean, it's something. And Koi Nami Element. That looks very pretty. I enjoy that. That's very pleasing on the eyes.
So, actually, what do you guys think about the Chroma Packs, just in general?
That's my reaction right there.
Nick?
I'll be entirely honest. This is how, like, when I first heard of Chroma Packs, this is pretty much, like, my thought process for it was just like, oh, yeah, so we're releasing this new thing. It's called Chroma Packs. So I was like, oh, cool. Is it, like, these, like, cool kind of things where you can maybe get, like, some free stuff or something? Like, maybe, like, some free extra IP or something like that, or maybe, like, an IP boost, like, from the Chroma Pack if you're lucky kind of thing. But then I look at it and I'm just like, this is where our money goes?
Yeah.
When we buy stuff, this is what they do with it?
You both have the same reaction.
It seems very redundant.
Because
sorry?
No, that's my fault.
I'm going to continue on that with this is the part that bugs me about it, and it's probably just me, is that old League of Legends skins were just recolors. However, we've gotten away from that by making more unique skins. Like, for example, Kha'Zix, he's like a bug and all that. Mecha Kha'Zix, now he's like this machine. Guardian of the Sands Kha'Zix, now he's like this beetle type thing. Still kind of an insect, but one that's like with sand and such like that. And has like this magical kind of vibe to it. And I really like that. Like 3 very distinctive skins. But then Riot was like, we want to bring back the recolor for some reason, because apparently people don't like the base colors. Which honestly, if you don't like the base colors, don't get the skins. So, I don't like Chroma Packs. They feel really stupid.
Yeah.
They're definitely stupid, but they were a good idea. They just weren't practiced very well. I mean, like, okay, I've had issues with some skins, like, oh man, this would look better in this color or something. And having the freedom to choose a new color is kind of neat. But at that point, you might as well just, like, go on Lolcraft or something and download a custom skin that's just a recolor. Because people do that. People, like, go out and do this for free. And you're willing to pay money so everyone can see you like this. And everyone's judging you just a little bit for spending your money on that.
Yeah. Like, there's another thing that it's kind of upsetting me.
I don't know, man. Either way, that's all the patch notes for 5.15.
There's just one thing I want to bring up. There's one thing that's kind of upsetting me, and that's the Zac skin that came out. Everybody was so hyped for it, but it was just a recolor, as well as he had a recolor Chroma Pack. So there's no point in it, really. Like, it's not that good of a skin, and I know people will probably hate on me for that, but it's just not that good. It's a recolor. You know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But
One thing I would want to say about
go ahead.
The one thing I would want to say about that whole, like, with the Zac not only having a skin release, but then he's got this Chroma Pack release. I will say, if there's any champion that does deserve these skins that have recolors, it is Zac, just because seeing him in these different colors kind of, like, makes new things, and it looks really cool. However, the idea's kind of gone all wrong. Like, honestly, if you were going to make new skins for Zac and all that kind of stuff, why not just make... And since they have this idea of Chroma Packs, why not just make one big Chroma Pack for Zac and you can choose from any color, like in a large array or something. Why God bother making all these skins and stuff, like special weapon Zac, and then immediately after you have pool party Zac? It's pretty much just a purple Zac with spiky parts to him, and then pool party Zac. It's a blue Zac, but he's got shorts on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Also a rubber ducky pool thing.
Still though, it's just like the general idea of just recoloring a champion to make a skin. It doesn't really appeal to me too well. It needs to have something to it
Yeah.
that makes it like distinctive from the classic skin.
See, that's what I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be just like a chroma pack. I thought it was going to be you could select any color you want. That's how I thought it would be, but it wasn't.
Yeah, me too.
It just disappointed me.
But then they shattered our hopes and dreams and said, "Oh no, you only get to choose from a select couple of colors that we chose."
Yep. So I guess on that note, we should end.
Yeah. Thank you guys for joining us. It's been fun. We'll be sure to do this at the next patch or whenever we find something worth talking about.
Yeah.
Like maybe when Fiora is actually released for real.
That'd be nice. I want that. Rito, please. Okay. Well, bye.
Bye.
You've been Pedro, and don't go back to the garden now.